is Bear Saragusa, and you are listening to the Hunting Hound Podcast presented by W Hunting Supply. Well, cool. Well, you're actually my first proper guest of the new year. So Happy New Year, Nick. How you doing?
Happy New Year, man. You can probably leave the proper part out. I'll be a guest. How about that?
You're my first. I guess to be a proper guest, this would have to be a proper podcast, and I would have to be a proper host. So we'll just say you're my first guest of the year.
That'll work. That'll work. Thanks for having me on. I know we have been trying to get this done, oh gosh, for a while now. It's always one thing or another. And it's like that every time me and you get together.
Yeah, something always comes up. I think the one time it was natural disasters here for me, and then the other time it was natural disasters there for you. So
yeah.
It's but this time it worked out, so I guess it was meant to be.
Yeah. We just always got planning about 12 months in advance. We'll get done
that's eventually. Right. We'll start planning for the 2025 edition now.
Yeah.
So, well, good. Well, lots happened for you since the last time we talked. Last time we talked, you were expecting a child, and now you have a fast approaching toddler on your hands here.
Yes, fast approaching. Yeah, he'll be 9 months old here in, I don't know, probably 10 or so days, something like that.
That's so cool.
So, yeah, it's been a wild ride. Born on Cinco de Mayo, 5th of May,
cool,
2023. So, yeah, so we got something to celebrate on that day for ourselves now. But,
cool.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, fatherhood is crazy. It's it's like everybody, so many people do it.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that there would be like things that could adequately prepare you for it, since the majority of people go through it.
Yeah.
You'd think that it'd be like, a class or something that you could take or a book you could read and be like, oh, okay, well, I think I've got this pretty well down.
Yeah.
There's nothing that prepares you for it.
No, you can't do anything about it. And it's one of those things instantly. I remember I watched the whole thing, and, I'm not generally that guy who can watch stuff like that, but I did. And it was just like God reached down and in a polite way slapped me and said, "You feel that? That's fatherhood.
Right.
That's how you're going to feel from now on."
Yeah, right.
And I was like, let's roll,
Sure. That's cool. That's the right attitude to have, It's better that I've had friends who have been there, had the whole thing happen and been like, "Oh man, this was a mistake." Thank God I never felt like that, but that's gotta be rough, because I do hear that does happen sometimes. But that's cool. That's cool. What's his name?
His name's Clint. His full name's Nicholas Clint Gilliland. Nicholas after me,
cool.
But we're gonna call him Clint, which is my grandfather's name.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's cool. What is he?
To honor my grandfather.
Yeah, I did. Our son Odin is named after Kaya's grandfather, and his name is Odin that. James. James after my father and my grandfather and my great grandfather.
Okay. Yeah. I like that.
Ivan is named, just because it was easy to say in both Norwegian and English.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
So, well, that's cool. Is he? Has he met old Hyde?
Yeah, several times. He goes. He likes to pedal on the 4-wheeler when I'm riding around. We'll stop and see him, visit Hyde, and of course he's with me down there to feed him and stuff. So he's definitely a hound loving dog. He's got Hyde out here, and then we've got the Basset Hound Luke that's inside the house. I posted a video of that the other day on Facebook. They're chasing. I don't know who's chasing who, but they're both running around the house together in his little roller or whatever you call it thing.
Yep.
And then, of course, my mom, she keeps him a few days out of the week while me and Kate are working. And she's got 2 Chihuahuas, which are not your typical ankle-biting Chihuahuas. They're pretty peaceable.
Good.
So he's got 2 friends down there, so he's definitely being raised around dogs. And
Doggy
I'm sure
kid.
that's going to always continue. Yeah.
Usually does. It usually does. I think my oldest son will probably always have dogs. Would surprise me if he didn't. My youngest son, I think the jury's still out. If you'd asked me,
Yeah.
if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said he probably wouldn't. Probably wouldn't have dogs. Hasn't really liked dogs. Collided with a dog when he was like a baby, and broke his leg like bad. Like was in a cast for like a long time. So since then he's like not been a real fan. Doesn't dislike him, but just doesn't really. Yeah. But
I can understand.
Yeah, me too. But got a border collie here. They're going to be doing some herding with.
Mm-hmm.
And that dog is just he's so keyed into the people around him.
Yeah.
That he's just like, he read what Odin needed and just goes up and like peacefully sits next to him. Doesn't do it, like doesn't make a big deal out of it. It's respectful of him, doesn't jump up on him. So yeah, they've become fast friends. And I'm kind of wondering whether that's going to change his future as far as dogs. We'll see.
It might, yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, that is such a underestimated breed. Guy I work with, he's had one his whole life. He keeps one. And we went over to his house to take some trees down, and that dog was running around. And I was just 8 hours that day watching that dog, on the outskirts of what we were doing. And I was like, man, that is a genius dog. And I was just talking to him, and he's the man everyone I've ever had just naturally like that. Yeah. And I was like, that's just amazing. We always talk about what dogs are bred for, but it just comes out so strong in those,
It does. And it's fascinating to me too. I'm writing an article about it right now, just about the, when we talk to athletes, they'll talk about cross training, going out and, doing something that is not necessarily specific to their sport, but makes them an all around better athlete and therefore is, applicable just in terms of overall fitness, to their sport. I wonder a little bit about that with these dogs as well, that I wonder if there's something to be said for training different types of dogs. Cause I agree with you. We get a lot of border collies in at work, and there's a definite difference between like the show border collies and the working dogs. The show border collies, they're just dogs. They're as unruly and ridiculous as any other dog. But the working border collies, in the right hands, those dogs are something special.
Right.
And I mean, this guy's like, I've spent the last 25 years of my life training Alaskan Huskies and Hounds, first Alaskan Huskies, then Hounds. I've had some very smart, great lead dogs and some very smart Hounds. Nothing compared to this guy. Like he's unbelievably smart. Things that would take me a full day, a couple of days to kind of get the basics down through repetition with some other dogs. He's like, the second time I say it to him, he's like, oh yeah, you've said this to me once before. I know how to do this. Ridiculous. So it's, makes me wonder a little bit. I think it's going to make me, working with this one's going to make me a better hound trainer in the end.
So did you purchase this dog, or you find, how did you come across him? How long are you going to have it? Is it yours?
Yeah, that's,
okay.
That's a good question. No, he's, what happened is, I used to roll around to some of the, sheepdog trials in New England, and was actually, trained a dog for a little while. That was offered to me. That was way back when I was like 12, 13 years old. I guess I was a little older because I guess I was driving at that point. So 15 or 16. But I was already had some sled dogs and wanted to put my time and energy into that. So turned that dog down, but always kind of wanted to get into it again. And, like we were talking about before we went live here, we've got 6 feet of snow on the ground. 4, 5, 6 feet of snow on the ground, like 5 feet of snow on the ground. And, I've got a big chunk of the year where I can't, both during the summertime and during the wintertime, once the snow really sets in, where I can't do much,
Yeah.
And I wanted to get a dog that I could train during get back into a different community and, scratch some itches and things.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I went to one of the clients at work. He comes in every so often with some very nice border collies, and I know he's active with breeding these Norwegian sheep, and he's active trialing. Hey, Lex. Psst. Hey, please. Sorry, just in the background chewing on a stick here.
So,
So I just went over to his place to just hang out for a few hours. And he had 10 dogs in training. And we were out kind of working him a little bit. And this one and I just kind of hit it off, got on like a house on fire. And he asked if I'd be interested, if I was interested in it. And I said, yeah, of course I am. Had already been talking to him a little bit about, if he was planning any puppy litters or something like that. And then he wasn't, but he had this, 4 9-month-old dogs. So, brought him home, and he's on, I'm still trying him out, but
yeah,
I like him. I like him a lot. He's got a very good attitude, very easy, or not easy, but he's, a very rewarding dog to work with in the house, and, sort of on a social level. But he's also very good with sheep, very balanced kind of with his, and, has a decent natural outrun and things like that I kind of look for. So,
do you have livestock at your house that you're planning on working with, or is it going to be like one of them competition type deals or you just wanting to have one?
I've just wanted to have one for a while, but no, planning on getting some livestock. We've had some various things here, but getting some sheep this spring, like once the snow's gone, I'm gonna finish up the fences I was clearing along the fence line last fall, and gonna finish them up this spring and get an older breed of Norwegian sheep here. I'm going to work in with that, but I live in an area with, within a mile of my house is 7 or 8 big sheep farms. It's like sheep country here. So
I got you. Okay.
I've got ample opportunity and ample animals to work with. And there's a big community of trialing enthusiasts here.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is fun, and it's really fun to see him. Like I said, I think it's going to make me a better hound trainer ultimately, because it's really interesting to see how different he is from the hounds. He gets along with them great, but it's he's just a totally different animal than the hounds, and which is
you never know what little trick or tip or that you might pick up on him that you'll be able to apply one day to that hound that you haven't quite figured out what you need to do. So,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. It's I am as doggy as they come. So I enjoy trying some new things, even if I dabbled a little bit in it. That was a long time ago, so it's pretty new.
Yeah,
pretty new for me. And he's not that much older than he's 9 months, and that hound pup that I've got is 7 months.
Yeah. Now you still got Mike the Beagle?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
how old's he now?
He's turning 2 in March.
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, we had it's been a rough season. We last year, we had when I broke him, not this summer, but the summer before as a pup, there were just deer everywhere. I mean, just everywhere. And then we had a really rough winter that lasted forever, and a lot of lynx in the area. So the roe deer population took a bad hit. And then this year we had another really, really early winter, extremely cold, in sub-zero temperatures in November, and early snow, first snow in end October. And it seems to have just kind of taken the last little,
Yeah.
taking the last little bit that the road deer had to give, because I'm not seeing them anymore. And so we had a couple weeks there where, you know, we were hunting and finding deer, and then they just disappeared. And we had a couple weeks where we tried and just couldn't find deer.
Yeah.
So made the call in beginning, I guess, mid-November to switch to snowshoe hare, because we've got plenty of those.
Right.
And started retraining him on snowshoe hare. And he's done really, really well with that. Very, very pleased with how well he's done with that. The season's over now. Unfortunately, it's not as long of a season, or neither season is very long. But but I'm gonna do a little bit of traveling with him, I think, here in the spring, and try and get him down to Sweden and get him on some of the hare down there, some of the hare and southern hare and German rabbits and things that are down there.
Right.
Work on him there, but he's really good. Yeah, I like that dog. He's a fun pup.
Yeah, everything you posted on him since you got him way back, you know, I've always I like that little dog.
Yeah, he's
rooting for him.
Yeah, I am. I am too. Yeah, we've had some varying luck with some of the other hounds, and Mike's been really consistently just a fun hound.
Yeah.
So
well, good.
Yeah, how's old Hyde, and are you able to get out with him? It's hard getting out with like kids when you get kids.
Yeah. No, Hyde's doing great. He's gosh, what is he now? Somebody I posted a picture. I haven't posted. Well, back up. I haven't filmed anything hunting wise and put anything up in forever, because I just got to where it's like more like a job than anything. So I posted a picture of him the other day or something, and somebody's like, "Gosh, Hyde's getting old, ain't with all that gray." And you know, as you see the dog every day, multiple times, you don't notice that coming on. And so that made me go back and look at the pictures. And I'm like, man, from 2 years ago when I was posting stuff, yeah, he has grayed up quite a bit. You know,
gray. Yeah. How old is Hyde now?
I think he's either 8 or 9. I had to look at the papers. I'm always a year off on him for some reason. Yep. So he could be 9, or maybe he's getting ready to be 9 here in a few months. But yeah, no, he's still clucking along, doing as good as he always has. And I've had him out a few times. I did not get to hunt as much this year as in years past. With a few times we went though, we've done pretty good. You know. Yeah. But no, having kids, I mean, it's put a blessed damper on hunting, I guess you could put, you know.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
So my wife, she was pregnant I'm a big turkey hunter. Well, I try to be a big turkey hunter. And she was pregnant back during turkey season. So I went like a couple times, had some good spots. And then I was like, man, I need to stay close to home. Even though I wasn't that far away, like I don't even want to be 15 minutes down the road, you know, when she was getting close. So stayed close to home for that. And then, of course, he came in May. And then, I tried a little bit of try fishing through the year, you know, because I can stay close to home, do that. And it seems like everywhere, when coon season come around, you know, everywhere I would go, there's hardly any cell service. And you know, we're both working, and you get a few hours in the evening with him, you know, and you just don't want to, I don't know. There's a thing I'm calling dad guilt. I don't know if it's a real thing or not, but
100%, you know, 100% a real thing.
Yeah. So he's not old enough to go with me, so I can't share it. And, you know, you feel like you need to get out and do something sometimes, but then when you do, all you think is about, I need to be home, you know.
Oh, I get it, man. Yeah. No, that's absolutely a real thing. You know, it's, I was competitive, you know, running competitive sled dogs for a bunch of years, long distance sled dogs for a bunch of years until my son was born. Hey, Lex, come here. Lex, come. And then had one season, you know, he was born in May. I had a season. Hey, stop it. Had a season where, sorry about the noise in the background, folks. He's just being a weenie, but had a season where I tried to keep it going, and just you know, about halfway through the season I was running a race, and I'd been, you know, doing these long training runs and had just really been trying to get it done, and then realized about halfway through this race that I was so miserable And it just felt totally wrong. And I remember calling my wife halfway through this race and being like, this is the last race that I will run until our kids are grown. Because this just doesn't feel right to me. So it's, the last 7-8 years that I ran sled dogs, I didn't race really at all. Because I was not willing to put in, I was not willing to sacrifice what was necessary. I still got them out and still trained them and still, gave them the quality of life I thought they needed. But there's a big difference between that kind of, getting them out and getting them out enough to be competitive.
Look, with Hyde now, it's like if he was sub 5, I would probably just send him down the road to someone who I know would hunt him.
Yep.
He's getting age now where he don't really mind to lay around a fair amount.
Right.
But if he was a young pup, I would definitely, I'm not putting in enough time to keep his energy level up if he was really young.
Right.
But so I'm not having to deal with that guilt too much because you trade one guilt for the other,
right.
But so it's definitely not the time to be starting a pup or doing anything like that for sure. That's years down the road.
Yeah. Yep. No, I mean, and it's a legit thing. You gotta, and it's gonna look differently for person to person. But I know so many dog men that have just terrible relationships with their kids. And I know, and it's like so many to the point where it became kind of a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Where I've got, I've had dogs since I was a little bitty guy, and I'll probably have dogs until the day I die. And, if I back off for 18, 20 years while my kids are little, I don't think I'm ever going to regret that, making them a priority. Making sure I'm not raising, juvenile delinquents, or.
Yeah.
So I think, the dad guilt thing is, I think something that most people, I mean, not just dad guilt, parent guilt, I guess most people are going to need to figure out one way or the other. Cause it's not just, I think it's, family guilt. Cause I mean, the same, like what you're describing, the same happened to me this year. My wife, became ill last January. And this fall, I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to do the moose hunting that I normally did. And it was because it was going to take me a couple hours from the house. And if something happened, it was going to take me a while to get out of there and to them if I was within cell service to even find out about it.
Right.
And it made, that didn't make sense to me. You gotta, if you want to be, good, if you want to be a good parent, a good adult, a good man, I believe that requires sacrifice. And
agreed.
Yeah. Having dogs obviously requires some sacrifice. You need to put them first sometimes, and, you need to give them what they need and all that. But at the same time, you bring a child into the world. That child or those children, they need to be the top priority. More important than, they're at least way more important to me than me. And, need to be the first priority, not every time in the sense that, they become spoiled, buttheads, but, they need to be, their development and their needs to be the first priority, which means that I'm not going to be hitting it as hard as I definitely would be if I was alone.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Exactly. Where I live, I mean, the hound hunting is pretty popular. I mean, don't get me wrong. The biggest thing around here is deer hunting, and everybody around here has that one guy in their family, or maybe even multiple, or maybe at one point they were this guy that, oh yeah, dad, he's deer hunter, lives and breathes deer hunter. The vacation time revolves around this. The can't do Thanksgiving dinner until dad gets out of the deer woods. I mean, there's always things, incite these men, and I've been guilty of it too, but I don't want to carry that over to getting in the way of my family's memories, or, I kind of got real big into going around like refurbishing antique stuff over this past year. And so I'll be going through all these garage sales, antique stores, and you look and you see these old deer mounts on the wall and stuff. And it's like, at one point in time, that was probably one of many on some man's wall that he had. That's dad. That's Uncle Bob. He's a deer hunter. And that's all. That's what he had to, I hate to put it this way, but show for himself was his trophies. Sure. Well, now he's gone and they're collecting dust in some garage or antique store or whatever, and you're like, I don't know. I've known men in my life that put so much time into that I've seen that their family was not put first. And I would rather put, when I'm dead and gone, people looking around and see Clint, and maybe if there's other kids later, and say, that was him. I enjoy the hound hunting greatly. And from like 2016 to 2021, that was me, for sure. I mean, I was married and of course, everything, but now those priorities have definitely shifted. And I think it would be a major failure on my part if I died tomorrow, people look back and say, oh, he was a coon hunter. I want him to say he was a dad, or a husband, and enjoyed coon hunting or whatever. So that's the way I definitely see my life heading in the near future, as long as the good Lord, lets me. Because like you say, you get out there and you start doing stuff, and you're like, oh man, I just can't really enjoy this. I was actually on a trout stream just a few weeks ago, and my wife had took off, and my in-laws live like 45 minutes south of us in South Carolina. So when she goes down there, she spends the whole day, and I'm fine with that. That's great. So that's my day where I'll do things I got to do around here, go fishing or whatever. And I was off fishing some trout stream, real high elevation, and it just dawned on me. It's like, man, Nick, you haven't had cell service for like 2 hours. And I like dropped my pole, run back to the truck. Well, I mean, didn't drop it, but reeled up my stuff, jumped in the truck. I drove like 30 minutes down the mountain just to get cell service and check. Because what if? Right. And I'm like, if I was off chasing a hound tree somewhere and something happened, I just don't know if I'd forgive myself. And I don't know, maybe we can't be like that. I don't know. But right now with him as little as he is, and, it's just, you feel like every little thing you're doing is barely keeping him alive as it is. They seem so fragile. So.
Yeah. Well, I think, my kids are older than yours are at this point. I've got one that's turning 10 and one that's turning 12.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that, the age where you're at in the process, I like 100% with you there, that, it's like you really should be there, at least be accessible most of the time. That at least that's where I was, definitely took breaks, definitely went off and did my own thing, my, mental health walks in the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
Got out with the dogs. But, as they get older, that it becomes a little bit less necessary to be, available all the time. And, I think that taking that first chunk of time, whether it's, the first year, first 2 years, and trying to set them up for, making sure they know, both them and your spouse, that, you're prioritizing them. I think is important, because it's not going to be that long until they can come along fishing and can come along, and then it becomes this, then you enter this whole other phase of it all, where you start to, where your hobbies, the things, your passions become things that you share and that you can impart on your kids, more than they become a drain on available time and resources to spend with them. So, it's not, it does, I don't think having kids means you need to give up anything, really. But, it might mean that you need to put some energy somewhere else for a couple of, for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I was watching, I follow Warrior Poet Society on YouTube. I don't know if you ever heard of him, John Lovell. He's a retired Army Ranger and Christian, and he's just he's got a cool thing going on there. And he was talking about, they always say give your 110% in everything you do. And he said, man, you only got 100%. And he's like, you can't give 110 to one thing. He's like, if you're a father and you're a husband and you have a job and then you have a hobby, he said everything's going to get a percentage and it's all going to be less than 100. And you have to delegate where you're going to put that. Where you got to line them up priority first, And as of late, this past year, hound hunting's been at the very bottom of that for me, and we've still done it. And my hope is, like you say, I can't wait till we get to the point where we can share, these hobbies with him and things of that nature. But we'll get there all in due time.
Oh yeah.
But I just had to make sure I'm not the guy that put that first, and I think every guy's like that. And I'm probably preaching the choir to every dude out there that's got a kid that's hearing this, but new to me. So it's one of the things you don't even think about. Did not even think about this being something I would deal with,
Right. I mean, it's easy to think, how much time is a kid actually going to take?
Right. Yeah.
And then it's like,
how much? Not much.
Man, and then it like hits you. It's like, oh man, I haven't showered for a week. Like this is, what the heck's going on
here? Yeah.
No, but I think it's something to be deliberate about. It's everybody wants to be. I think honestly, I think it also has to do with just, everybody wants to be a good, I'll speak just for, I'll speak for men, I guess, because I can't really speak for women, but everybody wants to be a good dad, nobody's going into it with like, oh, I don't want to be a good dad. Everybody wants to be a good dad on some level. Not everybody manages, but I think most people that put the effort in do a pretty good job, I think. They might differ in the way they do it, but it's I think that the combining a passion and a lifestyle like hounds with kids can be challenging, especially when you've got that, when the hounds came first. And you've got kind of an established thing going. And you've got to make room for the kid. And obviously that kid's going to take time away from the hounds. And, you may end up in a situation where for a couple, for some years, you're not firing on all cylinders. But I think that, if you kind of backing up, I try to look at things big picture as much as I can.
Right.
And, lying on my deathbed, whenever that is, it's like you said, I want to look back and be like, well, I had a lot of, dogs have been an enormous part of my life and I had a lot of fun, but I don't think I'm going to be lying there thinking, man, that period from 2012 to 2018, I really wish I'd spent more time with my dogs,
Right.
I wish I'd spent less time with my kids. I don't think I'm going to be thinking that.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It's like, because that's the other thing is especially, and that's the great thing with hunting and, in general, but also with the hounds is that it's not that long until they're going to be able to come out with you.
Yeah.
Ivan was out with me by the time he was By the time he was 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
he was out with me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I shot a couple of deer with him there. I've shot one deer with my youngest son with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it probably would have gotten a few more if they hadn't been with me. But
That's all right.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
You know, that the fact that
Yeah.
they were with me made those couple just so precious to me. That those memories are just, I wouldn't trade them for the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the same with the hounds. They've been with me for some really great experiences. And, you know, the days they've been with me, I would much rather, you know, it's much more worth to me that they were there for it than, and I needed to tone that dog off because, you know, and get it back to the truck because somebody was getting hungry or cranky or tired. Than, you know, having gotten it done, but not seeing them at all that day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but having said that, I think it's also there's this thing now. It used to be different. You know, I think it used to be, there wasn't as much of an expectation for the dads to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
I understand.
And now there's this expectation that we're going to do that there's going to be, and I won't say there's an expectation in my house. My wife is amazing. And is, you know, fantastic about giving me time to do my thing and you know, being supportive of, you know, whatever insanity I've got going on right now, like bringing home a border collie, you know, stuff like that.
Patient woman you got there.
Patient woman I got here. It's I've only got a little house, 2 kids, and seven indoor dogs at this point. So,
oh wow, okay, yeah.
No, that's 2 of them are hers.
Everybody pray for Bear's wife.
Pray for Bear's wife. Hashtag pray for Kaya. Yeah. But you know, there's this expectation now, this sort of societal expectation that we're going to be there for everything all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, you and I are talking about the importance of being there, but there's also, I think, you know, you talk about dad guilt. I think there's also something to really, you know, to sort of look at the other side of the coin. It's so important for both mom and dad, but it's so important to take that time still to be, you know, Nick.
Yeah.
And Bear, not, you know, dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such a, you know, it's a razor you got to walk, and you just, you know, no matter what you do, you're going to feel guilty regardless. But you just do the best you can for what I'm seeing, and like you say, my guilt's definitely not been brought on by my wife. It's, you know, she's supportive in whatever I need to do. It's all self-inflicted, you know. So, but it is what it is. But my plan. I can't wait till we get to the point where he can share these things with me. I will say one thing, just taking him around, like, you know, we're sitting here at the house or something. If I just take him out on the back porch, I mean, that kid lights up looking around. Anytime we're walking through a parking lot to the car, I mean, he's so outdoorsy. You could tell the boy seeks outdoors. And my mom, same way, when she watched him during the day, sometimes she'll take him in a stroller and walk him around. She said he's like 20 or 30% happier outside than he is inside playing. And I'm like, well, that's a really good sign, you know? So, you know, but like you're saying too, some of my earliest memories with my dad, you know, was 4 or 5 years old chasing rabbit dogs, chasing beagles. So, you know, I'm not that far off from being able to share that with him. And, you know, hopefully those memories will stick with him like mine have, you know?
Yep.
So,
well, that's another thing too to sort of touch on is, you know, I found out pretty quick that, you know, once I got into the hounds, one of the things that got me into the hounds in the first place was, you know, I do a lot of reading. And one of the books that really just kind of caught my fancy, got me thinking about it, was Strike and Stay, Bob Plott's book. And I knew I needed to try plots. I needed a plot. And, you know, I got them and they were everything that he described them as, no more, no less. And I found out pretty quick that, you know, they were awesome, but based on where I live, the size of the terrain I'm running, you know, the type of game I have available to me and my kids, you know, with the rules here, not being able to use a 4-wheeler out and, you know, off road, not being able to use snowmobiles, you know, all this stuff. It's just like, man, I was spending more time looking for that dog than I was, you know, it was a bigger deal hunting with that dog. So it became where I couldn't bring my kids with me because that could quickly turn into a 12-hour day.
Right.
You know,
and that's no fun for them and probably could turn them against it.
Right. And it started to, it started to get to the point, like my youngest was just like, no way, I don't want to come. And my oldest was like, I really want to come, but you know, can you call mom to come and get me if he runs off? And it's like, yeah. You know?
Yeah.
But then I got the Beagle and suddenly it changed completely. You know, it's the Beagle kind of reignited the flame, especially for my oldest.
Right.
Because it's just such a family friendly way to be out there with the hounds. You know, it's like, you know, it's so easy.
Yeah.
Every aspect of it is easy. And, you know, I think that was crucial for me to figure out that I could still actually get out a lot. You know, I'm still out 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Or that's not true. Right now, there's too much snow. I'm still out exercising them that much, but I'm not out hunting 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
But during the fall, I am, you know, from August until the snow gets too deep.
Well, you know, that's the thing, you know, anybody's heard our conversations in the last several years. My biggest problem is finding land,
Right.
You know, to hunt a hound dog, coon dog on. It's very hard around here because of development and stuff. But anytime somebody says, hey, I got all these coons on my deer feeder, will you come run them? Sure, yeah. How many acres you got? I got 10. I got 5. I mean, that happens often. If my dog would stay on 10 acres, I would never have a problem hunting coons again in my life because I got like 100 places I can go.
Right.
So what dog can stay on 10 acres? A rabbit dog.
Right.
Most of the time, you know. So I think that's going to be an easy try. I mean, I grew up with beagles and rabbit hunting and stuff, so I know that fairly enough to jump right into it at any point. And I still know the guys around here that have the dogs. And like you say, it's so family friendly that, you know, I foresee, I was telling my wife just the other day, I said, probably, you know, in late 25 or late 24, early 25, I'd like to maybe go ahead and get a couple of beagles. My dad's got 4 left over right here beside me, but they're all 9, 10 plus, you know, so they're very slow. And, you know, one of them has cancer. And so that herd's probably going to be gone here for soon, but, or before too long. But I told her we're going to invest in some beagles. And I mean, I can do that in the yard here where we live, if nothing else. So that's something I'll probably shift in my gears toward very soon.
That's really cool. You know, I know people who run hair dogs here, and that varies a little bit what it is. You know, sometimes they've got the beagles, sometimes they've got a couple of Norwegian breeds that are bred for it, like the Dunker, which is kind of like a harrier, like a big beagle. But, you know, they'll go out there with like a baby backpack, you know, like those carrier things.
Yeah.
And they'll light a fire and, you know, make s'mores and, you know, drink cocoa and things with their kid while their beagles work or their hair hounds work. And it's just, everybody has such a blast. And that's what I've found with mine is that I can, you know, I can do it so much more on the kids' premises, you know, on their terms.
Yeah.
Than I can with like a plot. And, you know, now the hounds that I've got now are not super far ranging. You know, they've got a good The pup is real, hangs real close. So we're working on that. And that's coming. She's only 7 months old. But even my big buzz dog, he won't get more than, he usually won't get more than 3 or 4 miles out there if he's really on something.
Yeah.
And, even then, for whatever reason, I can't make it into him. He'll go back. He'll follow his own tracks back.
Okay. Yeah.
I can leave a jacket there and go back and get him.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
I don't need to go catch him.
Yeah.
like I did with the plot, start setting bear traps for him, or, obviously I didn't do that, but sort of crossed my mind a couple of times. It was like, I bet he's crossed this tree twice. I bet you if I set a trap for him, I'd get him.
Yeah.
But,
some of my memories when thinking back on just with us talking has jogged my memory, thinking back to sub 10 years old. When I think of my coon hunting memories, I've got a couple. I mean, I got some good ones, but a lot of them was like blistered feet, hurry up this mountain. It was kind of, it had a cloud with a silver lining, I guess, more. But when I look at, hunting with Dad, when we was rabbit hunting, standing around listening, watching Dad and his buddies tell stories and interacting with the beagle that wouldn't hunt that always hung at our feet, and stuff like that. And then shooting a rabbit and it's over in a briar patch. I'm the only one short enough to go in there. And, it was cool things like that. So, the hound, the long distance hound stuff, probably, I'm sure we'll get into that at some point with him. But the beagle seems like such a really good entry, or, rabbit hunting with beagles seems like really good entry level hound introduction for him. To me, that's the way the math seems.
I mean, that's what the math looked like in my head when I decided to get Mike, and that was after having to move Dan, the plot, on, because he was just ranging. Yeah, he could be gone for 3 days. And that was a training issue for me. Just in terms of, I should have been more on him. But, I was trying to find a balance between being on him enough to keep him closer, but not break his, kind of break that drive, which I really appreciated. And I did not walk the, I'm not going to blame the dog breeding, nothing. That was a me problem. I did not, I didn't walk that line correctly. And basically,
we've all done that.
Yeah. I mean, basically my needs at that point were not, and his needs just didn't align. He needed to run, and he needed to run big, and I needed to be, home to pick my kids up from school. It's like it didn't mesh. And, but I think that's, if you go into this thing with kids and combining kids and hunting and combining kids and hounds with this attitude of just being sort of, set on doing it the way you've done it without change, it's going to be, that's a hard row to hoe.
Yeah.
But, if you're flexible, and I mean, you're in a nice situation too, where, it's not like you've got a 2-3 year old hound out there that you kind of need to figure out what to do with. Your, hides getting old on you. So you're in a position where, to keep doing it, you would need to get a new hound anyway, or kind of in a position where you can make an adjustment. And, by the time whatever you adjust to, beagles, if you get beagles, by the time they're old and you need to start thinking about, replacing them, Clint's going to be old and, old enough so then you'll be able to make the call whether you want to get into, it's not like you're going to lose the contacts you've already got, you'll be able to find another coon hound. So it's one of those things where it's like,
I'm definitely to that point where, hunting 5, 6, 7 nights a week, that's just impossible, these days. But like you say, I'm at the same point with my hound that I don't need to. He's fine with taking a break. But I am at that place where if I was going to continue coon hunting, I would, within the next 12 to 18 months, I would need to get another pup. And, if I was going to be able to flip and have dogs overlap like you usually like to do. And so that's not something I'm going to do for sure. Yep. I've made up my mind on that deal. Because we talk about this often, giving the dog the best fair shake you can. And I wouldn't be able to give that dog a fair shake in life. Right. Somebody else could take him and put him in a better place, put more time in it, and probably make it become a coon dog when I probably would not, So I wouldn't want to do that to a coon dog. Because you see the way they have drive and stuff like that plus you're talking about. You wouldn't dare want to break that, So that's the reason why you seen him down the road. But so yeah, the Beagle thing's close upon us, and I'm looking forward to it. But I still miss the coon and stuff. But we'll keep Hyde around. He ain't going nowhere. We're still getting him out, and I've got till end of February. That's when our season closes. So
okay, yep.
I can still get out here a little bit and shoot some more coons up to him for this year's season's over with too.
That's good. Yeah. No, it's an exciting and I won't say frustrating, but it's an exciting and challenging period of life you're in now.
Yeah, and the thing is, these are things that people don't really tell you about. You just don't. And I don't know if people don't think to tell you that, hey, this is what's going to happen, or it's just, nobody told me, so let's not tell him. I don't know what it is, but you don't get this information until you're there,
right?
And but my main goals, like we were talking about earlier, is just I don't want to be where one day he says, yeah, man, Dad spent more time with them hounds than he did me.
Right. I don't remember what my dad looked like when I was a little kid, right? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that is not going to happen.
That's really cool. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And it's, it's, that always bothered me when I had kids, that there would be it was one of two things. Like to the last person, one of two things. It was no exceptions. And I mean this literally, no exceptions. Mm-hmm. It was either, oh, it's the magical, most amazing thing you've ever, you're going to love it. Or it's like, well, kiss your life goodbye. There was nothing in between. And it is an in-between thing.
Yeah, very much
so. It's like my standard response when people say, we're having a kid, it's like, I'm super happy for you. It's going to be the best and most challenging thing you have ever done.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Because it is. I mean, it is. It's the best moments in my life have been with my kids, hands down. The worst moments in my life have been with my kids. I mean, no question, no question.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like everyday life, but you crank the intensity level up to, it's like cranking the volume up to 11.
Right.
It's just like, it's everyday life. Like, I've had dogs since I was a little kid, and remember when my first dog died, that was brutal. Mm. After that, you kind of get a little bit, it doesn't stop affecting you, but you get used to it. Mm-hmm. But then, 2 months ago, we put down our Newfoundland, which was the first one the kids were really aware of.
Oh yeah,
man, that was brutal, dude. That was brutal.
Yeah, because you're watching them experience it for the first time. So
exactly.
Your heart's breaking because it's your dog, and your heart's breaking because it's your kid's dog.
Right. Yeah.
So I can't imagine. Yeah, I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's but it's at the same time, you start rewatching old cartoons that you watched as a kid, and laugh alongside your kids is the best. Getting out and showing them how to split wood or make s'mores or make a campfire, or go fishing or what, it's the best. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I mean, we are going to live outside because I'm an outside guy anyway, and he seems to love outdoors. And I don't, fingers crossed, I say that we're going to live outside. You know,
Good.
I hope he's into that. If he's into it, we're definitely doing it.
Good.
You know, and the hounds, I don't want him to go through life without having some kind of hound hunting experience. I mean, we can circle this all the way back. You know, the only way that hound hunting is going to survive anywhere in any country is if you keep raising your kids and putting them into it, and then they take off with it one day.
Absolutely.
And so he doesn't have to do that, but I definitely want him to have the knowledge and the experience with hounds to do it if he chooses to do it. So, yeah, I think part of raising a kid in this day and age is definitely introducing them to hound hunting. So I'm gonna do my part, and we'll see what he does with it. You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it's a great way to kind of bring it full circle. Is, you know, I think for the people that are currently enjoying being able to do it, it's not a given that our kids are going to be able to do it unless we introduce them to it and do it in a way that is not going to destroy it for them really early on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said with the plot dog, if you just stuck with that, your son might not have wanted to go that route. And now that you got Mike and all that going on, you know, you've seen the shift yourself.
I have, you know, and it's made me more confident going forward now. You know, that if I dug my heels in and done what was right for me, because I mean, what was right for me, if I'd been single, Dan would never have moved a foot off of this property. No, I mean, not in a million years. I loved that dog. I loved everything about that dog. Apart from the combination of being a family man and having him was just like, wasn't really working.
Yeah.
And I had to choose one over the other. Obviously, I chose my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, Dan's doing amazing. It turns out that his issue was that he hates running with other dogs.
Okay.
So
he's solo.
He's a solo dude.
Gotcha.
So like, could not get him on a bear. Like, they'd put him on a bear with, you know, other experienced dogs, and he'd just kind of drift off and find himself something else to run. They were like, well, he doesn't like bear. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that dog likes bear. Like, that was not my experience at all. And they're like, well, he won't stick to a track. And I was like, really? Because he would stick to track for days when he was here, like literal days.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you ever just dropped him solo, like if you considered not running him with another dog, and you know, these guys were like guides and they had TV shows and stuff like that, and they wanted to hedge their bets and drop multiple dogs.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know, consider dropping him solo. And, you know, eventually they started doing that, and he's at a guy's place now where he's dropped exclusively solo, and he's killing it. He's just doing so well, which is great.
Yep. I'm glad he found his place where he needs to be.
Me too.
Yeah. That's a happy dog.
That's a happy dog. And, I'm realizing that until my kids move out, I'm not going to be a plot guy. The second plot didn't really work out either, so it's going to take.
What happened with that deal?
That is a long story that I will I'll fill you in on, not on air, but he is still alive and living with his breeder. He's I
got you,
but was not my dog. I was not able to cultivate the single brain cell that dog had.
I got you. We've all had some of those. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that was the.
Not ever.
That was the. We were talking about this border collie being the most intelligent dog I've ever worked with, and that I've worked with at this point, many hundreds of dogs.
Yeah.
That second plot was right up there as the least intelligent dog I've ever
So Bear's seen the entire spectrum of intelligence in a hound.
I've seen the entire spectrum in my short career of, brilliant problem solving ability and, barely able to walk in a straight line,
Yeah.
But yep. No, so he's back with his mom and his sisters and doing well over there, I guess. So, but
good. Every dog's got their place, and it's not always hunting sometimes. But
well, I mean, he is hunting.
He is,
but
okay.
He's hunting in a pack where he doesn't need to make any calls himself. He's he's a support. He's playing a supporting role in a bigger picture.
Yeah, well, that's fine. It's needed in certain things.
It is, so. And that's not what I needed, and I've said I've talked about it in the past. I just wrote an article about it, about or I actually wrote an article about it a little while ago, and just did a podcast about it. The last podcast I did actually was about puppies and giving them a chance and raising them to adolescence, and how I believe each pup deserves more of a chance than people are willing to give it a lot of the time, though.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But at the same time, if you walk up to a pup and you're like, both of you are looking at each other and the pup's like, I hate you. And you're looking at that pup and being like, I really don't like you either. Move that pup on. Life's too short to work dogs that don't like you and who you don't like.
Yeah, that's true.
So
some of the things I've run into, seems like I always say I'm not going to train two at once because you can't divide, and I always end up with two for some reason. And like you say, you always get that one that outshines the other one. So when it's time to go over and snap one, I'll take you later. It's a little more fun to take this guy over here, And so it's at them. I always come to that crossroads, and I always say next time. I'm not going to cross. I'm not even going to come to that crossroad. I'm not going to, and I always do.
Yep.
And I always end up having to send one down the road, probably 6 months later than I should have, or whatever. But you do what you got to do.
Yeah, maybe. It's one of those things where, I've also had those dogs where, if you'd asked me when they were a year, I probably would have given them to you, and then a year later, there's no price that would have made me sold to, sell them.
Speaking of that reminds me, 2 years ago, I had that Nick's dog.
Yeah.
I had her on the channel and stuff. Okay, so I sent her to Alabama to a young teenage boy. I said, all I need you to do is put her in the woods. And so he run the hound off her for like a month. He's in the woods 6 nights a week or whatever it was. And young, experienced boy said, I don't need you to train her. Just put time on her, and he did, and didn't really see a little improvement, but not much. I brought her back here, hunted some with my circumstances. Finally, come realization. I said, she's. And he put her in the hands of somebody's going to hunt her. So, got up a good friend. He's become a very good friend of mine named Chris Murdoch down the east part of North Carolina. So I don't even remember how we hooked up, but I said, man, I got this dog. You can have her. He's wanting to coon hunt. Get into it. I said, you can have her. So he took her, and he hunted her, and she started treeing some, and he was having some fun with her. And then I think somebody gave him some older dogs, and it was one of them ones where this dog takes no work. They just go tree coons with the older dog, and then she needed work. So he ended up giving her to some 16-year-old kid that goes to church with him and the grandpa. I think the kid lives with his grandpa. And the reports I'm getting back, she's 5 now, around 5 or something like that. And, they tree coons with her all the time. I couldn't get the dog tree coons to save my life. And if you told me that she's going to be down treeing coons, I'd have laughed in your face. And evidently, the dog with the right person at the right circumstance,
Man.
That's key.
It is so key. I mean, it's so key. And I think people underestimate how important that is. And I think they also underestimate, at least for me, I've definitely been guilty of, a little bit too much hubris when it comes to dogs, where I'm like, well, if I can't get this dog to work, none of these other boneheads are gonna be able to, and then have just gotten so burned every time I start to get a little bit, egotistical, and it's been a long time since the last time, thankfully. But
yeah,
where it's happened to me so often, and it's happened both ways, where I've gotten a dog that, just has barely been functional for somebody else, that's worked like, an absolute rock star for me. Mm-hmm. And then the opposite, where I've had dogs, I could barely get those dogs to, that they were breathing on their own was like an accomplishment. Yeah. And then they'll end up with somebody else who just gets things that I never even would have dreamed that dog was even capable of doing.
Yeah.
And, so much of it has to do with chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Life's too short. Find the right fit for both of you.
Exactly. Life's too short. Your life is too short. And if our lives are too short, then boy, their lives are too short. Don't keep them. Don't keep them around for, their entire lives on a kind of funky situation.
I've got a list in my mind of several dogs that I'm like, man, I should never hung on that long. I really did a disservice to that hound. And that's one thing in the future going forward, whether it be Beagles or Coonhounds or whatever, I'm going to try to keep from adding to that list, if I can. Because that's another guilt thing, that you live with. But, so I don't want to go down that road anymore if I can help it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make those decisions, hopefully quick and decisive. And, 3 years from now, we'll be talking about this. You'll be like, remember that time in January 24 when you said it?
Yeah. No, it's true. There's a really well-known sheepdog dude from Scotland that said, sometimes I think our lifestyle is built on regret.
Yeah.
Because I found that for every time I learn something with dogs in general, for every time I learn how to do something right, there's 2 other examples where I've learned how to not do something wrong. In the sense that, like, I've made a mistake and learned, I'm not going to do that one again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that all, like, for me, that boils down to a lot of regret. A lot of times where I'm like, man, I wish that hadn't happened. But
a lot of times it seems you don't learn how to do the right thing because you did the right thing.
Right. You're like, well, that worked out. I don't totally know why, whereas when you mess up and it's like, wow, that went south on a, that went south on a fast horse. You pretty much got an idea why. It's like, well,
yeah. And those things stick with you. Those are the ones that you remember. So next time when you come across that obstacle or whatever, you're like, I know exactly what I got to do now.
Right.
So. Right.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Maybe the last dog we ever train will get the best part of us.
I hope so. That's the hope, isn't it?
That's it.
That's a goal. It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah,
it's a great.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, I'm going to let you get back to your lovely baby there, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time out on a Sunday to come and talk to me, and it's good. I
appreciate the invite, man.
Good to catch up with you. Let's try not to wait until January of next year to do another one of these. It's always fun to have you on.
We'll go ahead and pencil the next one in right now so we can try to get it done.
That sounds awesome.
Real soon.
That sounds awesome. All right, brother.
So, but yeah, thank you for having me on here, man. I really appreciate you.
Anytime.
Man, I love that sound.